GSi is a badge that needs no introduction here in South Africa, but in case you don't know much about it, it's basically 3 letters that turned Opel's cars into unbeatable machines back in the 80s. You'd be able to find them on models such as the Ascona, the Record, the Monza, and most importantly, the Opel Kadett. Over the years, the GSi badge has kind of died out so that Opel can make way for its OPC brand, but now it has returned and we find it in the current generation of the Opel Corsa. Okay, so what exactly makes this Corsa a GSi? Well, for starters, it has a spoiler found on the rear hatch. It has slightly bigger wheels with Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tires and a suspension sourced directly from the Corsa OPC, which never came to South Africa. And as you can see, it only has 2 doors. It also has kind of fake carbon fiber mirror housings, which can also be found somewhere on the front bumper, where you will also find a fake air vent for the engine. If you're expecting more power from underneath the bonnet of the Corsa GSi, you're going to be a little bit disappointed because it uses this 1.4 litre turbocharged engine, which is great, but it only pushes 110 kilowatts and 220 newton meters of torque. It's the same engine that was found in the 1.4 Sport, which is what this car actually replaces. Inside the Corsa GSi, things are as sporty as you would expect them to be. It has this really great leather wrapped steering wheel with a flat bottom. It's got a great manual shifter, which you also found in the 1.4 Sport. But most importantly, it has these snug Recaro bucket seats that keep you in place when you're going for the corners. Opel has used this in previous OPC models. But the Corsa GSi is very interestingly spec'd. It has some really great features such as a heated steering wheel and heated seats for the driver and passenger. It's got traffic monitoring system, but it lacks a rear-facing camera for the PDC, and it also lacks keyless entry, which would be more appreciated than a heated steering in South Africa, I think. It also doesn't have a fuel range monitor, so you can't tell the range, you can't tell the fuel economy. I don't know whether it's this model in particular, but I think it's weird that that's missing. But anyways, that's enough about the features. Let's get on the road and see how this thing drives. This Opel GSi, it is a bit awkward because you can tell on paper it's not going to excite much. 110 kilowatts, the claim 0 to 100 time isn't amazing, and on paper you just know it's not going to be a car that's going to perform the way a GSi should perform. And let me just start by saying that the chassis is great. Sourced straight from the Corsa OPC. It's sharp, it's dynamic, it's very grippy, especially with these Michelin tires, and whichever corner you see in front of you, you can tackle it at very close to full throttle because the car will hold. And you can also probably do it at full throttle because it's not pushing much power out. And that is where the big problem with this car lies. I don't think it needed to be anywhere near the OPC's 152 kilowatts, but I think where this car needed to play was more like the 130 kilowatts where the previous Fiesta ST was pushing. Then it would be a very competitive sell. Especially when you consider it's 365,000 Rand. I mean, just for comparison's sake, we tested this car 0 to 100 time and it came in at 9.27 seconds, which is a little bit slower than claimed. Nothing unusual. It could probably go faster, but you can't turn the traction control off on this car. And we looked back at our data and we saw that in 1987 when we tested the Kadett GSi, and I'm not talking about the Super Bus, I'm talking about the 95 kilowatt Baby Bus. That car was 1.3 seconds faster than this car today. And that's kind of embarrassing because if you're pulling up in a brand new GSi and you are next to a car that is quite a bit older and you'll end up losing, it's going to look a bit embarrassing. What I feel the Corsa GSi needed was the 1.6 litre that you get in the Corsa OPC. And I kind of understand why they didn't want to put it in. I mean, that car's been discontinued. It's worth saying though that you're probably going to have a lot more fun behind the wheel of this than you are in a Polo GTI if you're going through a mountain pass. But if you're looking for speed, adrenaline and performance, this car's just not going to give it to you at all. It's also odd that they took some things out from the 1.4 Sport that this car replaced, like the auto park assist and the aux cable for some reason. Like, I don't know why that was removed. I don't know how many people still use the aux in South Africa. I don't know if it's a lot, but I mean, I'd imagine that's always something that's nice to have, just to have the option at least. This car doesn't really go up against anything in the segment. I mean, the only thing I can really compare it to is the Mini Cooper hatch, the 1.5 litre 3-cylinder, because that's a similar price. It's 10 kilowatts down on power, and it's got a good chassis. It's fun to drive. Otherwise, what else is this car going up against? And I think that's something to point out, because I don't think there is any place for a car like this in South Africa in the buying market. If anyone's buying a hot hatch today, or even a warm hatch, they're going for speed. I mean, the cornering capabilities, the grip, everything like that, it's not really a big part of the South African buyer today. What they want is speed, and that's something the Polo GTI does very well. And it's unfair to compare this car to the Polo GTI, because even the Polo standard level of spec, it's close, but it doesn't quite match up to this. Driving this as well, it really makes me curious about what that OPC was like. We never got to drive it because it never came here, and we never went on the international launch either. But I say that because the chassis is fantastic, the tires grip to the road like anything else. The steering could do with a bit more feel, but it's nicely weighted. I think it's great that Opel South Africa is still trying to push models like this that appeal to the younger buyer, but at 365,000 Rand, I just don't think it's worth it. 110 kilowatts just isn't enough for this car, which is why I think it's a pity that the OPC never made it here. Obviously, it would have cost too much, but I think with that 152 kilowatts, it would have been a segment dominator. But if you're a die-hard Opel fan and you're looking for a Corsa that's a bit more exciting than usual, this is perfect for you.